volunteering this year.
Thanks. Merry Christmas.
Take care.
Take care.
So, 19 South Main Street, application 20. Oh, we have 3 things on the agenda for tonight for the board. 19 South Main Street, which is, I guess, a demolition and adding an addition to the back of 19 South Main Street. And Peter Morris said he'd come back with the porch renovations to St. Andrew's house. And the third was the business people in Yardley, whatever the group is, wants to put up some giant ducks around town, like the Miles for Mules. So for you other people who are not on the board, if you want to hang in there and listen to that discussion, you're welcome to. So from 19 South Main Street, who's sort of leading this?
I'm the architect. I don't know if you need me to lead or if you want to ask questions.
Why don't you explain? Okay, Lynn, what's your role?
Art is the one who is buying the property, and I work with Art and have been really involved with he and Flavio in getting everything together.
Okay, so Art's a prop.
I am here, and I can't do my world without Lynn, so I always have her with me.
Okay, now you are the current property owner, or you are buying it?
We are purchasing it and probably closing in January.
Okay. Okay. So go ahead, Flavio, if you want to describe what you're doing.
Okay, so when I was approached about this project, the Art told me that the existing building did not quite suit the needs of their business for a variety of reasons. And the main scope of this project is to remove what looks to be a series of additions off the back of the building and replace that with a new structure of greater size. And it also involves some interior renovation of the existing stone building. So that's pretty much the project in a nutshell.
Okay. Okay. So, why don't you go over the, okay, so Art, your program is that you need additional space.
That is correct. And just the configuration of the building just wasn't right for the amount of people that I had and the way we do our business.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe this information is on these documents. I'm not seeing it. Are you proposing a larger addition than what's there now?
Yes, the footprint of the addition is approximately double of what's there now.
It looks like to me, yeah. And you've gone through zoning for that already? You've worked that out?
No, we're trying to get this approved through HARB first.
I see. And you're going to lose some parking spaces by expanding into that, it looks like 22 feet. Is that what it's going to?
Yeah, right now it pretty much eats up the 2 spaces that are perpendicular to the existing addition.
Yep.
So do you have additional drawings like the existing to be demolished?
Yes, the existing will be demolished. The only thing that's going to be preserved of the building is the stone structure itself.
Oh, I'm saying you would, for HARB's purposes, I mean, this, as far as I know, it's over 50 years old because I remember when I first lived in the back building. And so, I mean, I'd like to have it documented. In other words, we don't know how big the existing footprint is, and it would be good to have that existing layout and all that for anything historic purposes.
Okay, yeah, I did take measurements of the back structure. I don't know to what level of detail you're looking, but if that's something that you need, then that's something we can prepare.
Yeah, I think it's something just for historic purposes, so it can go in the record and we know what was there.
I don't know the age. It looks like that addition evolved over time.
Right.
It looks like it maybe 2 or 3 possible phases even.
Mhm.
So I don't know when the last one was done. It looks probably something more current than 50 years old, but again, I don't have any documentation to support that.
Can I ask what the size of the current addition is on the back? You're proposing 22 feet. What's existing now?
It's approximately, and I'm sorry, I don't have that answer right now, but it's probably about 10 to 12 feet right now.
Okay. So when I'm looking at the side elevation, left side elevation,
Mm-hmm.
you change the siding from the board and batten to the clapboard. Is that, would it be safe to say that the board and batten section is the same size as what's there now?
More or less,
More or less, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the massing is going to change quite a bit.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
How, what's the depth of the stone structure?
The depth of the existing stone structure is about 18 feet.
Okay, so this is gonna be much larger. I mean, I'm looking at the diagram, it's much larger going out the back. And is it, it's hard for me to tell, oh, it is pulled in a little bit from the,
That's right.
okay,
It's going to be, I think you're only going to see this obviously from the back of the building, but from the streets, from Main Street, you will only see this from the left side because the view is almost entirely cut off on the right side, but there's an alley and then you have the burritos next door. So there's really just a sliver of view available from that side. So predominantly from, as you approach this building from the left side, would you see this addition?
mhm.
There,
Yeah, it's prominent because of the parking.
Right, there's that open space, correct.
It's gonna be very prominent, right?
And that's kind of why the emphasis on the materials on that side is more apparent, and the detailing of the building.
can you roll through all the materials you're using from the roof all the way through the windows?
Yeah,
side-
it really comes down to three materials. From the roof, I'm looking at a standing seam product.
Okay.
Mostly because there's a lower pitch section in the middle, if you're looking from the back,
Yeah, I see that.
which needs to be something other than asphalt shingles.
Mhm.
As you, the majority of the siding is a board and batten material,
Mhm.
which something that is, kind of timeless but still modern.
Mhm.
And then it's broken up by some composite wood rain screen siding that would offer some warmth to the building and also play off that modern aesthetic as well.
Well, I guess my first look at it is why the board and batten? I don't get it. And it does smack of modern to me.
Well, as I said, I really wanted to bring in a material that could play off of the stone, something that could be bring some warmth to the color scheme. It's also to emphasize that the view from that side is going to be more apparent, and I thought it deserved a little bit more a different type of detailing. So for those reasons, and it's we're looking at some materials that are not cheap either, so that it's not used throughout, so used sparingly a little bit. And
The board and batten is hardy plank.
board and batten would be correct, a hardy plank, a cementitious material.
Okay, and then the composite, the wood is like in the photograph.
Right, so
Fiberon?
Fiberon, or there are competitors to Fiberon that there's, I'm sure you're familiar with things like Trex or what have you. There are other manufacturers out there, but that Fiberon is used in both horizontal and vertical applications successfully.
Is this like the house down on the river, on River Road, the modern place?
Is it like that? In terms of the materials,
Yes.
I would say shares some similarity.
Were you planning on having it as a finish like that?
The color,
Yeah.
I don't know. We haven't explored the color scheme right now. There's quite a few options in the Fiberon color wheel. So I haven't done a color study, but I definitely want the appearance of a natural wood.
But this is going to have a contemporary look to it.
Yes, but I also think it's going to be, it has a historic flavor, if you will, just because the board and batten is a product that's been, it's an architectural style that's been around for forever. So
How wide are the panels?
the board and batten.
Yeah.
So
Maybe-
that is right now it's 18 inches, as shown in the drawing. So I have it as not a varying width.
Can I ask a question? Would you be open, and I don't know how the board feels about this, with board and batten, a lot of times when I see that it's used, it's often it's cedar, and it's also used on the rough side of the cedar. So you get kind of a texture to it that kind of works nicely with the stone, instead of something that maybe you're proposing here that's very slick, that Joy's picking up on. So a little bit of that texture that's on the opposite side of true cedar that's been stained is a pretty cool look.
Yeah, it is. And you can get in either a smooth or rough finish. So
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just having a whole hard time with the whole board and batten. And the modern aesthetic to this beautiful old stone building. I don't see what it does for it. And it's going to be huge. And to me, it's like, I don't know, it's like a sore thumb sticking out the back of this beautiful old building. That's
Well, I
my
mean,
opinion.
how do you feel about the existing edition today?
The existing edition, I see that as an evolution that just happened over time. And not, and I also happen to like, I prefer that kind of siding to the board and batten, unless you were going for a barn-like look. I just don't understand. I'm just having a hard time with the concept.
Flavio, is it possible? Can you do this in SketchUp and do it like in a rendering?
Yeah, we can produce that.
Yeah, I think that might help a little bit to get the proportions and all, and the now Joy,
Yeah.
if we go along with having them tear it down, okay, then theoretically, oops, I'm sorry, I just noticed I have to admit somebody. I'm never watching that. Theoretically, it should be more keeping with the building character, but can be contemporary. It doesn't have to be historic looking.
I understand that, but
Okay. Now,
I
I don't know if that's what they're getting at or not.
yeah,
Art, is that your impression? You want to have something more contemporary as opposed to historic?
No, listen, I'm open to whatever the board wants us to do. I mean, I could, Flavio is very helpful in what he does, but more or less, I know that you said it sounds big, but it's only 8 feet. It's not really big. It's just a little bit more than what's there now. So that's the only thing I'm not getting out of this. It's not a very big, huge addition that we're putting on.
Well, I don't know if anybody's questioned that yet.
No, I don't think they're really, that's not in our purview, is it, Jerry? I mean, as long as it goes by the town's zoning permits that size, we're just
Right.
commenting on the aesthetics of the addition, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think parking might be a real issue there anyway, but,
That's, again, up to the zoning board, right? Not us.
Yes.
well, zoning officer or zoning board, you don't even know if you have to go to the zoning hearing board, right?
Well, don't they have to?
Why?
I anticipate it's going to get a zoning review because it is bigger than the original footprint.
Well, I know, but zoning review, but I'm saying the zoning hearing board for a variance on parking. So, so anyway, I think we're having a hard time. First of all, I wanted to have the existing, I guess what I'm saying for my part, I'm not the board, I'm just the chairman. I'd like to see the existing footprint shown and maybe even dotted in the elevations or separate elevations. So historically, we have that documented. It's not historically a building, but it used to be the home for Yardley News. And anybody who's been here for a while remember Satch Says and things like that. And so the entire second floor was the Yardley News office and everything else. So there's a little history to that back. It was always, the front was Fulper with their real estate office. And the back was Yardley News, at least from my memory. Tim, you've been here for your entire life.
You're right. You're remembering it correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'd like to have that documented. It doesn't have to be in a lot of detail, but just, just a rough footprint, and things like that. And then maybe put it into, SketchUp and a 3D rendering kind of thing.
Okay.
And maybe you could, if you can get Art and Lynn to go along, maybe put a little color into it.
Okay. Sure.
Just aesthetically, I think your eave line, your gutter line, and all that trim is light.
On the original.
No, on what you're proposing.
Okay.
It doesn't weigh down with the wide battens. If the battens were closer together, it might help it. But with the wide battens and then that thin, all you see is the gutter line. I think it's a weak element. Now this is strictly aesthetics, but I'm just thinking that you might want to beef that up or something like that to give it a little more. But maybe when you do the SketchUp, it'll show it. Maybe there's depth, with the overhang or the gutters or something like that. Because right now you're showing no overhangs or anything.
Right.
So just think about it as far as the weight of the roof. You want the roof to sort of hold down the building. You don't want the roof floating off. Maybe you do. But, for me, that's my, aesthetics. And we're not necessarily here for new. I mean, it's your interpretation.
I understand. I certainly I came at this with a more modern appeal to it, aesthetic, and I went in that direction.
And that's why I think it's important to do that SketchUp to get a better feel for that.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I really like the juxtaposition of new and old more than just trying to recreate the past all the time. I think that can bring a lot of dynamic to this building, and particularly the way it's going to be used. I think it deserves a little change of aesthetic. As far as I understand, and as far as HARB, as far as I understand, HARB considers the back of the building is not, or you're mostly concerned with the view from the street. What can be seen from the street? Am I correct about that?
Correct.
Well, we review anything that's seen from the street. We're interested in everything, but yes.
So, I mean, truthfully, there's only one elevation that can be seen from the street, and you may not even see it in its entirety. So
I think it plays a part in the aesthetic here. I don't think you can downplay that, especially when you need
right.
to compete.
And I'm giving the back of this building as much,
Going to see this, and I think it needs to be harmonious. I
right.
I would vote it. I would vote forward with more quality materials in terms of, as I mentioned, some type of real quality board and batten, not something.
Sure.
I haven't really seen the hardy plank, but I would like to see natural material there. I'd like to see windows that are wood and high quality and STL, because the back of the building should look as quality as the front of the building.
Mhm.
I'd like to see something with the railing in the back being like maybe metal or bronze or something, not PVC.
Right.
I don't know if you're proposing just a concrete ramp or whether you're going to do something nicer back there. As I understand it, from what I'm seeing, this is a higher end business. I hope that it's reflected in the addition as well, upon this beautiful old historic building that's really kind of a key visual for the downtown area. So
Right. And I think we entirely respect the original structure
Sure.
as much as we can. So,
okay, yep. No changes to the facade, right? That you're not proposing.
no,
The front.
no.
It'd be nice if you had a little green around your outside of the building. Rather than
Yeah, I mean,
strictly paved up to right now it's pretty deadly with just paved right up to the addition.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing back there at this time.
Well, you're building new, you could put something back there.
It's possible.
So, what's happening to the bill code door in the basement?
That's going to come out. And so access to the basement, well, first of all, we don't know yet if it's going to be a basement. If the addition will be in a basement. So I don't know exactly, how, if we're just going to do it on a crawl space or even on a slab. So that's something that we're still talking about.
Yeah.
How about HVAC? What, I see where right now where the HVAC's located on the back of the building. Have you thought anything more about that?
Yeah, I think that will probably have to be shifted to the side, one of the sides. There is room if you're looking at the back, there's room to the right before you reach the driveway of the adjacent parking lot.
You're talking about the alley side to the right of the back
To the
elevation?
shopping center side.
Shopping center side.
Shopping center side.
Yeah,
You
I
only
think,
have two foot, so you're not gonna
Yeah.
get HVAC
And it would be
on the
screened,
driveway.
something that would be screened.
So could you show that also?
sure.
Is there room to do it on the alley side, on the other side? So it's not.
I don't think so. I think it's too tight there.
Okay.
Yeah, they only show 2 foot.
No roof possibilities with roof location for HVAC equipment?
I don't know if it's going to be ideal. It's not, that's an interesting thought. If it's something you would consider, we could probably make it work.
Would you consider it onto facing the back of the building to the left of the ramp, or is that a step down to the left, or is that an end of the ramp?
No, that's a step down,
Okay, so it wouldn't work there. Okay, never mind.
right?
I think between the two peaks, you might have a possibility of doing something.
Possible, right?
Because it's going to impact that back elevation. Just something just to think about. That's
Yeah,
all.
it just makes maintenance a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. And the door.
You should be able to service it with a roof access. You shouldn't
Right.
have to climb up a ladder to take care of your HVAC.
Correct, yeah.
Right. So that old dormer that's on the attic space is kind of like useless, isn't it? That's on there.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be able to be preserved.
No, I can understand that. So
Which dormer?
the
There's-
dormer on the back, the single dormer on the back. It's
Yeah.
odd that it's there. Yeah. So it's just,
That's the bad kids' room, I think.
yeah. Yes, probably. And Jerry, I'm with you. When I look at the gutter line trim, it looks really weak. It looks like it needs to be more substantial on both of the on both of the peaks and also on the rear elevation and the side elevations. That could be beefed up along the gutter line. I think that would look a lot better, give the building more weight.
Even the existing addition in the back has a good overhang and heavier gutter lines, so.
Yeah.
But I, like I'm saying, I don't want to mess up his architecture, but I just think it's something you should consider when, you know.
Yeah, and if, you know, we'll try to put it in 3D and see if what we like more and what we think complements the original structure.
Yeah, good. So would it be okay for you to accept like extending this till you can get back? Without us making a recommendation to council? Because otherwise I think we'll have a hard time making a recommendation at this point.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I let Art or
Art,
Lynn.
yeah, that's up to you with Art and. Art, are you okay to extending this? I don't think you're gonna be ready to do construction anyway.
I don't think we're going to be ready for construction, but as long as the board says, hey, if we make these changes, you guys are all in favor of us becoming neighbors, we're more than happy to do it, become good neighbors.
We can probably accommodate you in 2 weeks if the architect can.
Yeah, I mean, if he can turn it around, I mean, we'll be glad to review it again in 2 weeks, so, I mean.
You're not set on the end of January anyway, right?
was
We're
that,
closing
Joe?
some point in January. I don't have an exact date yet, but my deal is all contingent on zoning and you guys, to tell you the truth.
Mhm. Well, can you let us also know whether you need a variance versus just zoning?
As far as I know, the only thing that might come into play is parking.
Right,
So last time I spoke with the building owner, I believe he said he had something like 17 spaces on his lot. Art, maybe you can step in here and. I
He
don't
was
know if-
willing, he said if it's an issue, I'm willing to give up a couple spots because, you know, we've become very friendly and it's a very friendly transaction
how can he give up a couple spots?
because he
You're
owns the
saying,
building in the back.
you're saying he has.
Well, I know, but he can't get rid of the parking that's required in the back. You have to look at both buildings. You can't just say, hey, you know, the back building has, I mean, you know, I don't know how he can do that.
And the truth of the matter is we don't need a lot of parking. I don't have that big a staff.
Oh, it's what zoning requires. I mean, you know, for the square foot, it's not how much your staff is because you may, actually you're showing about 4 or 5 workspaces. That might be 4 or 5, you know, or 6, 8 parking spaces that you need.
Yeah, but just remember, we're not all there together and because I
Oh.
kind of work remotely.
But zoning is different than that. I mean, zoning looks at the building without your occupancy per se, you know, unless it's a restaurant, you know, which has different requirements. But zoning looks at the square foot area. So it's what's square foot area in the front and the back buildings. And, you know, in the back building, they have all those utility vehicles, which probably take up more parking than is even necessary. I mean, I know the second floor, first floor and basement were occupied in the back building. So, you know, unless they're saying, hey,
We've been there during the day, so there's plenty of, you know, I'm not there at night when the trucks are there. But
right,
when I've been there during the day, and I guess this is a zoning issue, Jerry, and that's not my forte. You're completely correct on what you're saying, but I don't see it as a parking, you know, issue. But if it's a zoning thing, then I have to let them tell us what the deal is.
Well, shouldn't you, I just think you should contact zoning and get it straight from them. What's gonna be required.
yeah, they should be able to tell you right now whether you need more parking or not. Or whether you need a variance.
There is, I don't know if they're open to this, but the building owner has an adjacent property, not the one to the back, but a couple doors down, next to the, Art, do you know the address there?
It's a brand new blue building. I don't know the address there though.
Across from
I mean,
Wawa,
37.
Yeah.
37. And I think he has excess parking on, that's what I was referring to when he said he would give up some spaces. Now, I don't
But
know.
but you still have to get that approved. I mean,
Right,
you
no, I understand.
all
You're
those
right.
arrangements, but you've got to get the zoning officer on board and to say that it doesn't have to go, to the hearing board and all that. I mean,
Sure.
I would hate for you to go through us and then hit a roadblock at zoning that you didn't anticipate.
I appreciate that, Joy. I think we do have to find that out.
Yeah, I think you should for your own.
For settlement, right?
Jerry, I think your original recommendation of getting some clarification on some of the issues that have been brought up about the aesthetics on the addition, plus a footprint of the existing structure, and maybe an idea of what's got to be done with the HVAC. And again, all this is subject to that size of that addition being permissible given the zoning requirements of the town, right? So as long as the town says the zoning and the parking issues are resolved, then it's the structure of the building that's really what we're opining on, correct?
Right.
And I haven't heard anybody yet say, oh, we have to keep the existing structure, you can't tear it down.
No.
So,
If anything, and I'll just add to this, if anything, at the end of the day, that building and the back of the building and what we're going to build will make it a much nicer looking building. And the building right now is not really, if you go in, there's only one bathroom. There's no handicap. We're going to make it better than it is today.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
So I think we all appreciate having good rentable or office space. I guess it's office space, in the borough, and I'm sure we'd love to see that. That said, I think we're looking at those few things to get back to us.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think you're completely correct. We have to find out about the zoning. Flavio, I don't know how to do that, but I think we have to figure that one out.
Well, we have the site plan started, so it's really a matter of just meeting with the zoning officer at this point.
Okay, great.
And Flavio, the what you find out with zoning may dictate how you actually size the addition too. That might be some factor that comes into play down the road. So before you come back to us, maybe if you have that information, it would be helpful. So otherwise it'll turn into another consultation. And I'm sure you guys want to move forward. So, but it's
Listen, we want to get done right. We don't want to rush this project. And listen, like I said before, we want everybody to be happy and we want to be good neighbors.
yeah, no, we hear that. Absolutely. So certainly welcome.
Lynn, is there anything you want to say? You've been quiet.
No, we did reach out like kind of preliminarily to someone in zoning. I think his last name is Italia. And he seemed to think that losing 2 spots wouldn't be an issue. So that's kind of where we were there. And I know now that the people that were doing the survey were working on kind of the application to the zoning board, but we had the kind of early, we think it's okay answer. And now we're just working on the more final answer.
Okay, so,
If that helps,
All right.
they did seem to think it would be okay.
okay.
So hopefully that sticks.
So, board, do we have a concurrence that we're going to have this postponed, or applicant, we're going to have a concurrence to postpone this?
We did.
Yep.
Art, okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you
Okay,
already
great.
know, do you have the date for the next hearing?
Every basically first and third Thursday.
Okay,
January 5th.
What is it? January 5th?
January 5th, 7:30.
Okay,
okay. All right, so we have a little bit of work to do.
great. Okay, see you in a few
luck.
weeks.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very
Happy
much.
happy holidays to
holidays.
all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter,
Good evening.
good evening. So tell us what you've come up with.
The architect had modified the drawings, sent out smaller size to you, I believe, maybe the borough. I'm hoping that you got it. So what he did was he modified the drawings that he created that you saw first were for the increased pitch. So he brought it back down to the existing pitch. So we're going to keep the pitch on the porch roof the same as it was. We're going to put an EDPM roof on it as you suggested.
And all the rest of the trim and all is going to match the existing,
All of the rest of the
or
what?
is existing.
Well,
Trim.
well, all the existing fascia is coming off to expose the framing to make sure that we've addressed all of the damaged framing,
Right.
and then it's going back up.
Okay, so it's going to be the
New
existing.
trim will go back up. It will look the same as it does now.
Okay,
Great. Okay.
good.
Well, it will look better than it does now. Right now, it doesn't look like much because there's no roof.
Okay, is there
I
any
have a
other questions
contractor
for
ready to
Peter?
go.
Any questions for Peter?
No.
Oh, is the back of the property been resolved, Jerry, in previous? meetings?
Not resolved. The church the vestry has requested that there's a discernment process in the works right now on use of the buildings and how to maximize the use of the buildings. And part of that focus is to attempt to make the buildings assets instead of liabilities to the church. So until that discernment process is done, they don't want me to remove that second floor door.
So it's basically, it's off, you're splitting the application and we're just reviewing the front porch.
We're just doing the front porch now. We're not touching the back until that discernment process is done. And then depending on what they decide to do with the building, it may require us to keep that door. I don't know. I'm not in that loop at
Right.
this point.
Okay, so do
When
you
do
have any recommendations? Tim?
when does he expect to get this started? Because it's, of course, it's going to deteriorate further at this point.
I have a contractor already. We've already contracted with him to do this work.
Okay.
At this point, he's maybe a week out. He's a local guy, Tom Mack.
Yep.
And he wanted me to hold off on permits until he had a chance to talk to the building inspector, the building department, which is what I'm doing. But my intent was just to keep things clear, to pull the existing permit, which is for both projects, and put in 2 permits for 2 projects. Only now with the church not wanting me to do the back porch, I'm going to put in 1 just for the front porch.
Okay.
And
Great.
if that's what if the borough still wants me to have a permit, I'm not trying to dodge the permit. I don't care. I'm kind of doing what Tom asked me to do, which is let him work his magic.
Okay. As far as HARB is concerned, I think it's satisfactory.
Right.
Agree, Jerry?
Yeah, it's answered my concerns, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So do we have a recommendation?
I
Recommend we approve. Sorry,
Joe, Joy,
yes.
approve, second?
I second.
Joe, second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're all set, Peter.
I thank you all for helping us through this project. And
You
I
want to
hope
hear about the Yardley Ducks?
say again,
You want to hear about the Yardley Ducks?
I'm having trouble hearing you with the echo. It's my ears.
Probably not. The business people, the people who put up the mural, I forget what the name of the group, what's the name of the group?
Oh, no, they moved out. I think the end of October. And it was a one-time thing that they did. And that I'm not sure where that is going, whether they're going to continue to do it or not. I
Oh,
don't know.
Peter, this is something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
Right.
So we're done with Peter's application.
right, yeah, we're all done with that.
Okay.
So
I don't know anything
Wait.
about this duck thing, Jerry. I haven't heard anything about this.
you haven't, well,
No.
what's the name of the group, Sue? Oh, Experience Yardley.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Oh, no, I haven't heard about this. I thought you were
Okay.
talking about,
So
Something
anyway, Experience Yardley is proposing to have 4 or maybe 5 4-foot by 4-foot by, I don't know, 3-foot wide fiberglass ducts. Like, remember the miles for mules?
Yeah.
Okay, that same sort of thing. They're proposing to have 4 or 5 of those scattered around town in public spaces. Buttonwood Park, I don't know whether they can get one on Borough Hall, maybe down by the canal. somewhere on in the lake. And so they came to me for my comments. And I said, these are temporary. And they said, yes. And so I said, well, HARB really doesn't review temporary things like temporary signs and all that. But because these are on borough property, we have a sort of a historic obligation to look at it.
I would agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Do we have a rendering of what one of these things would look like?
So this doesn't involve me. I'm going to leave it.
yeah, okay, I just thought you might be interested there.
No, I'm,
You're out of here.
unless you want to stick one on the church's property, then I'll have to ask vestry what they think, but
Not us.
get back to me. You know how to get in touch with me.
Good luck, Peter.
Thanks again. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Pet the dog for me.
So anyway, my concern is that miles for mules were probably up for like 6 months, during the summertime. And I think they're talking about like a year and a half or something longer than that.
Yeah.
And my concern is I think that's too long.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There has to be a beginning and ending term to these things.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
and-
they wind
We
up.
also think we need to know what they really look like.
Yeah.
Well, they had a rendering of a giant duck.
I know, but what
Gee,
kind of duck? I mean, is it a,
It wasn't a Scobie duck, put it that way.
okay,
A mallard.
okay.
I mean, we can ask them to come before us or send us the information and all that stuff. But I was just saying that my main concern was the time frame. When the Miles for Mules came in, they had artists do the mules. They auctioned them off. People bid on them.
Right.
Paid for the mules, and then it was a fundraiser. And then they put them up, and then they they were sold to individual people. Like there's one at the Golden Pheasant. There's still a few around. Jim Greenwood has one on his property,
And Charcoal down on River Road has one. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, if someone decides to buy one of these things and put them up on their own property, I don't think that's our
No.
purview. It's just more public.
Is it a fundraiser? Did they say that? Is
No,
it-
they were planning on getting a grant to buy these.
Oh, okay.
So I think they need to really think out the whole process.
I think
Jerry,
that-
let me ask you a clarification question, and maybe Tim and Joy and those folks that have a lot more experience on the committee than I do. Previous discussions, I remember that when we had a discussion about the mural in town, there was a kind of a distinction between a permanent structure or sign and something that's by nature temporary. I think there was a distinction between an actual sign and paint. I know this is not that issue, but if this is of some sort of temporary nature, I mean, I guess there's a difference if they think these docks are going to be there for 30 years as opposed to a year or two or whatever. Is there any kind of like dividing line between what is, just a HARB recommendation as far as good taste versus a HARB, jurisdiction issue? I guess I'm a little confused about whether we have jurisdiction or we're just being asked to express a taste issue.
I think this is new territory. We've not had this kind of thing before, just like the mural was new to
Yeah.
us.
So who would be the one to give us guidelines about what our responsibilities are, as opposed to us just deciding what we want?
I think it's us deciding what we want.
Okay.
It's just a recommendation.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I would be,
No, not at all. I'm not suggesting there is.
and I would be as much interested in the locations of where they want to put these
Absolutely.
specifically than the things themselves.
Right.
Because the things themselves are temporary, but where they put them, I think we can give them some guidance that they might really appreciate. Because
Yeah, I agree with you, Tim. And I think, obviously I agree with the idea that a rendering would be really helpful, and also some concrete time frame of how long they're going to be wherever they're going to be. It's a little bit, we might have a little bit of a quibble on where exactly they're going to put it, but if it's an 18-month time frame, is it 18 months from now, it won't really make any difference. So that's kind of my point. So I think additional information is a great idea. And I agree, if they're obnoxious and they're going to be like on top of the light, the new traffic light in the middle of town, that would be, sort of objectionable. But, I think we need a little bit more information, and if it's, then we can make our recommendation, then the council can opine. I think that's a reasonable. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So I could pass that on.
All right.
How you doing, Rita?
I'm good. How are you doing?
All right. You seem to be quiet.
Just taking it all in. I'm sorry I didn't get any of the packages through this time. So
How come?
I don't know. I think might have got caught up, either bounced back for size or got caught in my, I put on a new debugger. So who knows if that might have kicked it back out.
Well, before the next meeting, if you don't have, do you get my emails at all?
I got the one tonight and I got Paula's. Just the one where you were saying we had 3 things on the docket.
Okay.
Are you getting Patty's
I don't know if I got Patty's.
with the applications? Because that's where she's been the one sending out the applications.
Okay, so maybe I have to look for Patty's, but I didn't see Patty's. I just got the link and then Jerry's, giving us what's on the agenda.
You might want to be in touch with Patty then about it to make sure, or check,
Okay,
if she's been sending out the apps.
thanks, Joe.
Can we go over what's the date of the next HARB meeting?
I believe it's the 5th. That's the first Tuesday in January.
First Tuesday or Thursday?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thursday. It's the 7th. I misspoke earlier on the meeting. Then I was looking at the 5th and I'm thinking Thursday. Sorry. So it's
Okay.
Thursday the 7th.
All right.
You should probably clarify that for the guys at 19.
Yeah.
So Rita, what I'll do is when I email with the application or the certificate for appropriateness, I'll have Patty email you, have her email, because you're getting my email. So you should get my certificate of appropriateness. But if you don't get it like by Monday or so, then, let me know. And we just got to make sure that you're in the loop. It doesn't help if you're not getting what you need. So
Thanks, Jerry. So how big did you say these ducks were going to be?
4 foot high, 4 foot long, and they didn't say how wide it was. And apparently, if you Google fiberglass ducks, you could probably find them, just like the miles for mules,
Yeah.
because apparently they've done ducks before. Someplace else has done ducks.
And they're all different types of ducks, or is it?
Well, they're just a raw fiberglass, and then they have the artist paint
Okay.
them. So just like the miles for mules, each artist would do a different, drawing or rendering on it. And apparently the artists are going to submit proposals on what they intend to do, and then there'll be a selection committee, and then they'll decide which artists get to paint what. And as I said in this meeting, the artists really need to have some freedom of deciding how they're going to do this rendering. I mean, that's the artists, they're the creators, so they need some flexibility on that. But anyway, so we'll tell council we want to stay involved and find out more. So anything more on the ducks? I have one question for Tim. Tim, do you have a tenant for the consumer bank or customer bank?
I have a lot of inquiries. Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to be very patient about it because we want to find a really good tenant. So,
I wanted a local bank downtown again. I don't like driving to
we
Edgewood.
use that bank every day, and there was a steady stream of people coming and going. I mean, they just, I think, what do we have? One bank now in town.
Right.
Santander.
2.
No, the one by the grist mill is still not open. They didn't reopen it.
Oh, no, but we have Wachovia or whatever it is out the end of the street in Santander.
Yeah, but that's like out of town, but I mean,
Yeah, and they're both big banks. They're not community banks.
yeah, so.
So,
And yeah, I mean, the bank left it as a bank as per my wishes. So, I mean, it's completely built out and it's,
mhm,
you know,
yeah.
it's hard to say what's going to happen. But like I said, we're fielding a couple phone calls a week, all kinds of uses, including the gentleman that came in tonight and spoke to us, was looking to buy a building and we were saying our building's not for sale. So, but we heard from him.
Okay.
What's his business, by the way?
Financial services.
Okay, I
Oh.
figured that's what it was, but I wasn't sure. Okay.
Another
Anyway,
financial
thank
services.
you all of you. It's been a few weeks. So for the next meeting, I'll be out of town, but I should be able. I'll be in Maine, but I think I should be able to log in. If I have an internet connection, I will, because because it sounds like 19 South Main will be back, right, in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be part
Yeah,
of that.
we need you there, Tim.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
other thing I wanted was to have them at least submit larger drawings to
yeah,
Paula so we could stop in and look at them.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I couldn't read what the materials were.
No, I think I couldn't read that either. That's why I asked him. But I mean, I think it was just a consultation tonight, right? I mean, that's basically what I think they were after.
Were
So,
those brochures that were attached to one of the submissions, was that an indication of the materials they're gonna use?
Yes.
I opened up a couple of brochures. They weren't very specific about what was being used. It was just branding and things like that.
yeah.
And maybe their elevations had it, but I couldn't read them. It was so small. So
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, so
I mean, I guess there's always a possibility that the addition's just aesthetically too large and they need to make it smaller. I mean, that's a possibility too. They could be starting out with 22 feet and they can make do with 18. I mean, there's definitely impact when it's that big. So
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, I think, Tim, that's going to be relative to the zoning of the town. It seemed to me like the architect and the business developer, they had a pretty clear idea about what they wanted the internal footprint of that building to be to serve their needs. So, 18 to 22 doesn't sound like a big difference, but for that guy to plan that business the way he wants to set it up, he's going to want it if the zoning will permit it. What I mean? It's going to be a tough argument aesthetically that 18 works better than 22 if he can get the zoning approved. So it's sort of, I would think it's relative to the zoning.
yeah, yeah.
and if they build out that back building, I mean, we had 20 people in there, I think. So
Wow.
my architecture firm was down on the first floor and basement.
Wow.
And the second floor was offices and apartments.
How long were you there, Jerry?
Oh, about 5 years, I guess,
Wow.
or maybe 3 or 4 years.
Your office was there, Jerry, huh?
Huh?
Your architectural office?
Ronald Vaughn Architects was there.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I've never had my own firm really. I worked for him for quite a
Okay.
few years. So
Yeah, I remember when they were there. Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
I mean, it depends on how much the owner builds these things out, and then they have a tendency to say, "Oh, I don't need that much parking," and then the zoning says fine, and then they sell the place, and then they put in twice as many people.
Yeah, your point was excellent, Jerry. You got to plan this thing out that the building's going to be there for 100 years, not the 10 years he's going to be running his business there.
Right.
Sure.
And I don't like the idea of swapping. Oh, I have 3 parking spaces over here that I'm not using. And then I put an addition on that building, and then all of a sudden I need those other 3 parking spaces, and then they disappear, and
Right.
so anyway.
There's also the possibility they could reconfigure the parking. I mean, I don't have a mapping of that parking lot, but I mean, they may be able to reconfigure or restripe it in some way to maybe make it more efficient and not lose 2 spaces. I mean, there's always that possibility too.
Well, they might need more than what they have now.
What's that?
They might not need more than they have now.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, you could put a couple compact spaces in, things like that. Just, you can be creative.
Well, if John Simone would ever be nice, then they could add a whole nother strip of parking along the that edge. But John Simone's not there yet.
If only he'd sell it to me, then we could get something done, right?
Right, yes.
I'd buy it. Anyway, all right. Well, nice to see all of you.
Okay, yep.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Holiday.
Have a nice Christmas and New Year, everyone.
Yeah, we'll see you in the new year. So,
Great, take care.
Take care.